Welcome to the WiseTake DFS podcast. I am your host, CK013. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013. And I'm joined here with Fuego Steve. You can find him on Twitter at Fuego_Steve. And Steve, obviously, Steve, when we first brought you on the pod, it was shortly after you qualified for your first live final. That was for the NBA for FanDuel. So I'm here to welcome, and the two of us actually are here to welcome DTECHNATION. You can find him on Twitter at Paulie DD. That's 8 Ds. That's Paulie, Paulie, and 8 Ds. And it's probably a pretty good idea. Let me tell you something about DTECHNATION here. He recently took down a FanDuel MLB Finals qualifier. So he booked himself a ticket over to Chicago. Paulie, appreciate you coming on, joining the team here at WiseTake, man. And on behalf of Fuego, myself, and the entire WiseTake team, welcome.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me, Chris.
Yeah, no, of course, man. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself before we start hitting you with questions about this qualifier you took down?
All right. I'm from the Northeast originally, born and raised up there in northern Jersey. I moved to South Florida about 3 years ago and started playing daily fantasy sports about that time. Did horrible in the beginning and got lucky enough to bank like a small $3 tournament early on, about a year ago, and started taking it more seriously. Some things in my personal life allowed me to put more time to it, so I decided to, focus full time on it. And for like the last 8 months or so now, I've been playing full time, and I've had a bunch of success, and I'm really enjoying it.
That's awesome, man.
That's awesome, man.
That's great stuff. So tell us about the night that you actually qualified. And I know it's funny because you actually reached out to me about a week before that. You had sent me an email, I believe. And I remember seeing it, and I remember actually I did bring you up to Fuego at one point just to see if he knew you at all, because a lot of times you tournament guys all know each other, it seems like. But anyway, so we did
feels that way now.
Yeah, of course. So we talked for a little bit. Next thing you know, a week later, there it is. I look on Twitter, and at that point, I'm like, wow, he just took down a qualifier, man. That's awesome. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the night, how you felt, and also even tell us about some of the players you played.
Okay. It was a really intense sweat. I took the lead in there was 2 games going. One of them was Oakland. They were playing the Marlins, and I forget what the other game was, but I actually passed Dan Bach from Roto Grinders by like a hair. I was beating him by like 0.2 points, and he had D. Gordon, who had just
he hates you probably.
Yeah. He actually overslept. He slept through it, so he didn't have the sweat, so he doesn't. He wasn't too upset.
Okay, good. He's had some bad beats. We all have, but he had a couple bad. Well, he had a rough one during basketball. But go ahead.
Yeah, if he was awake during this one, he would have been pretty upset. So I passed him, and the last guy he had was D. Gordon, who had made like the last out in the 8th. So 8 guys had to come up for him to even get another shot, and the Marlins go off in that inning. And D. Gordon comes up with 2 outs and singles, so he jumps ahead of me. And I had 2 A's coming up in the bottom half. They got 2 quick outs, and my guy came up. It was I can't even remember the guy right now. It was an outfielder, he's a lefty, bats like first or second.
But Joyce? Was it Joyce?
Joyce, yeah. So Joyce singles, gets on, and Lowry comes up with 2 outs and ropes a double, and that put me ahead of him. And then they went on to score a couple more runs, and I took like a commanding lead. But
that's awesome.
That up and down was just, I thought I had it, with D. Gordon not even supposed to come up. Then he gets up, gets a hit. It was stressful, but in the end, I won. And I was super excited.
You suck, Odor. Sorry.
Yeah, when Fuego's on the pod, you got to be ready to. I know you're sweating too, but when Fuego's on the pod, we all sweat together, man. It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
I've seen it. Hopefully this one works out for you.
Yeah. Well, hey, it's that's a great story, man, and I've had a number of close calls in qualifiers, and I obviously have at least won one. Well, 2 if you count King of the Beach, and they're fun. I don't know I don't know what it is about them. And I mean, I keep debating, would I be as excited if I win 50 or 100 grand? And I assume so, but it's a little different, than just a regular GPP.
Yeah, sure. It's like the that's the champion of DFS for that sport that year, whoever ends up winning it.
Yeah, for sure.
It's exciting, man. The best of the best. And you know what it is? Like, okay, on any given night, you could maybe have a shot to win 100 grand or in football $1 million, but you're competing against like thousands upon thousands of people. If you could make it through one of these qualifiers, you can make it to the finals, you have a legit chance against a little over 100 or so people. So it's like, it is. I understand. I get it, man. It's like a legit shot to really get a 6-figure prize, man.
Yep. Sure. Definitely exciting.
Well, here you go. For those of you listening, as you can see, this is we have 2 short slates tonight, so that's why we're going a little bit longer on the front end. But understand, guys, before we break in here, we got right here on the podcast, right here on the WiseTake podcast, we got one live finalist in Fuego Steve for the NBA who's been there and done it, and now we have another one who's booked his ticket and he's on his way, man. So we got some good tournament advice hopefully for this slate, man. I'm excited to talk about this slate. You guys ready?
Yep,
let's do it.
All right, so let's start off. We got Jarrell Cotton of the Oakland Athletics visiting Corey Kluber of the Cleveland Indians. Go ahead, Fuego. Start us off.
All right, let me make sure I'm on the right day here. Okay. You gotta like Cleveland bats. I don't see how you don't. Though Cotton has pitched pretty well. He's pitched pretty well, but I like Cleveland at home. They have a 5.1 implied run total. So I will. Is that the highest on the slate? Let's take a look.
Yeah.
So it's the highest on the slate. They're going to be chalky for a reason. But I don't blame you if you load up on them. And on the other side, the pitching, Kluber, he's probably the best pitcher. He is the best pitcher on the slate, So, he had a bad game last game at Detroit, but besides that, he's had a pretty good year. And, he had before last game, he had 10 strikeouts, 9 strikeouts, 8 strikeouts. So, I like the whole Cleveland side. And as far as Oakland, I don't think I'm playing Cotton. And for the batters, I probably have no interest in them. If I like Kluber, I don't really like them. So that's where I stand.
All right. Go ahead, D-Tech.
Well, it's actually Kluber's first start since like May 2nd. He's coming off the DL. So I am a little hesitant to jump on him. And on a 3-game slate, it's probably contrarian to maybe stack against him. So I'm actually interested in some of the Oakland bats, Yonder Alonso, Mr. Launch Angle, Stephen Vogt, and Trevor Plouffe actually had some decent BVP against them. So maybe you get Kluber on, not his best stuff, just kind of wiping the cobwebs off or something. I'm not sure how he pitched in the minors or if he had any rehab starts, but so in a 3-game slate, you got to find a way to be different. Kluber's obviously going to be the chalk. He's the biggest favorite, big name. So I'm not afraid of taking some of the Oakland bats. And on the other side, I think I agree with you, Fuego. Cleveland bats, definitely the lefties are exciting. Cleveland's actually got some good guys at the bottom of the order, some young guys. This kid Zimmer and Austin Jackson's been hitting the ball pretty well lately. I might give one of those guys a shot to differentiate as well. And then you obviously have Brantley and Kipnis and Lindor at the top of the order that will definitely be popular, but probably worth it.
Yeah, I think so. And on FanDuel especially, you're dealing with a very small slate. On FanDuel, this is a 3-game slate. So your options become a little bit more limited, whereas DraftKings, they do include that 3:40 Eastern game. So yeah, I think you guys make a lot of sense. Corey Kluber is going to be chalky. He's got the best numbers. He's got the best stuff on the slate, I think by a fair margin, and the best matchup. However, just like what Paulie mentioned over there it's his first game back, so we don't really know what to expect. Now, I can tell you that over the last couple of years, he's been dominant to righties, especially at home with a 239 home WOBA to righties. However, As good as he's been to righties, he's been almost that bad to lefties. 337 to lefties at home. So there is a pretty big difference. I think that you make a good point for tournaments. If you want to get different, which is as you get to know D-Tech a little bit, Paulie, you'll see that his main thing is being as contrarian as possible in a way that makes sense. So I think if you're gonna pick on Kluber, it's a decent time to do it when he's making his first start back. And we know, as you said, Mr. Launch Angle, Yonder Alonso. He's certainly a guy for merit. So I think in cash games, Kluber's going to be your guy. He's just got too much of a good matchup you can't really ignore. But I think in tournaments, listen, if you can get around him or even leverage against him, then why not? As far as Fuego, you nailed it with the Indians, man. They're going to be the talk, but there's a reason. Go ahead.
Yeah, I sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, I was not. Go ahead, man.
Let's also keep in mind this is a short slate. Right. So if Corey Kluber ends up being the highest pitcher, there's a chance you're going to need him to win the tournament. So I would be much more apt to play Kluber and get contrarian elsewhere. We talked about this during NBA season. I will admit I'm not the I've done okay on MLB short slates this year. I held my own. I've won a couple. Yeah, so you may need the highest raw score pitcher. So I'm going to do more research for sure. There's a couple other pitchers I would consider, but just keep that in mind. You can get contrarian elsewhere.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with you. I just think there's maybe one other guy that could keep you close to Kluber, especially considering you may be on a little bit of a pitch count.
Sure. And that's the big thing. Pay attention. Like Paxton today, meanwhile, he's doing well. But, when they say Paxton was on a pitch count, that changes everything. If they say Kluber's not on a pitch count, that's different than if he is for sure.
Yeah, that's a great point. Real quick, Paulie, do me a favor, your camera. Could you lower it a little bit? Is it possible?
Lower it. Like that?
Yeah, there you go. Okay. I just realized that we were seeing pretty much like the bar was on like your chin. So there we go. Perfect. Right there.
All right.
Nice and tall. I'm liking it. All right, man. That was interesting. First game and we're off to a hot start. Let's see. We got Chase Anderson of the Milwaukee Brewers visiting Zach Wheeler of my New York Mets. Go ahead, Fuego.
Now, this is where I definitely nothing's going to be contrarian on 3-game slate. But the Mets have the 4.7 implied run total, which is the second highest. So this is where I'm going to target for sure. I like to target the second, third, fourth highest totals, although on a 3-game slate, that kind of you run out of teams there.
Teams,
yeah. Sure. Exactly. But, to be honest with you, you could probably do 4x4 Cleveland and Mets.
Game stack it. Stack it.
Say again?
Game stack it.
Well, you mean, I might do the Cleveland and Mets in some, and then in this game, Brewers possibly. Because they did get to DeGrom tonight, and I was pissed because I didn't hedge against him. And I'm a sucker for the Brewers. So I could see game stacking this. If you're playing one lineup on a short slate, I recommend not necessarily chalk, but a good chalk, mixed with some low own. If you're playing 5, 10, 20 more lineups, you can do all kinds of different stacks and not necessarily to cover your bases. I wouldn't say stack every team, but to get more variety.
Yeah, go ahead.
But I didn't get any really details there, but I like both teams. And on the pitching side, I don't like Chase Anderson, and I would play Zach Wheeler actually. So Wheeler's a guy who's been pretty consistent. Let's see, on FanDuel, 28, 30, 37, 37, 23, 27. So he's not going to blow a 50 off of you, but no one else is except for maybe Kluber on this slate. So I would possibly roll out Wheeler.
All right. Let's go, D-Tech. What you got?
I agree with the Wheeler call. Milwaukee strikes out a ton, and he's been pitching pretty decent. I don't think I'd go with Chase Anderson on the other side, although some of the game log watchers might be apt to go with him. I think he had like a perfect game last time, going into like the 7th or 8th. Mm-hmm. So he could get a little bit of like SB2 action on DraftKings. but I like the Mets bats against him, especially the lefties. He's given up 47% fly balls and 42% hard contact to lefties. So Conforto, Duda, as Drubal or Jay Bruce, any of those guys I'd be into.
Yeah, go ahead.
And on the Milwaukee side, it seems like Thames is heating back up again, so I don't mind him as a one-off. But otherwise, I'm not too interested in the Brewers.
Yeah, I'm not interested in the Brewers, and the reason is, and listen, I get a lot of heat for being a Met fan, but like I watch, yeah, exactly, and I'll accept that crown. It's funny too because when I give my take on Wheeler, I know I'm gonna feel it on Twitter. There was somebody who tweeted me earlier talking about just saying he was bummed about DeGrom. He took DeGrom too, I guess, and he was saying like please don't tell me you like Wheeler tomorrow. And so he asked me what pitcher I like, so I tweeted him a gif of Wheeler walking through the tunnel. I told him I was kidding. I was telling him Kluber's probably the more safer option. But anyway, I think I watched the game today, and I think that today, listen, not to take anything away from Thames or these Brewers, they hit him well, but it was more DeGrom. DeGrom walked 4 people today. That's not something he does. If he's walking 4 people, he was off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he walked Sogard 3 times.
Yes, that's not DeGrom. DeGrom does. You don't go 9 innings against the Pirates walking people. That's not what you do. Or 8 innings or whatever it was walking people. So in DeGrom's defense, listen, I should have known better. I didn't even realize that he was coming off that game. One thing I know about DeGrom is whenever he pitches well over 100 pitches in his previous start, the next time he comes out, he don't have it. I've watched him long enough to know that, and it didn't even occur to me that he's coming off of that game against the Pirates. And so, listen, honestly, I think Wheeler could be a sneaky tournament play. I really do, especially on DraftKings, because you're right. Chase Anderson might get some love here on DraftKings as an SP2, but I think Wheeler is right up there with him. Listen, he's got the K upside. This guy does strike people out. Now, he gets hit a little hard, but the Brewers have a lot of swing and miss type swingers, and they're not the most disciplined team in the world. So I think that a leverage play off of today, a lot of people go off of recency bias. So I could see, okay, well, the Brewers rocked DeGrom today. They're going to crush Wheeler tomorrow. And I can easily see Wheeler just putting, listen, he's not going to have a DeGrom type game, but I can easily see him getting, 6 or 7 strikeouts through 6, 7 innings. I could see it, right?
Yeah, and the Brewers went off on Sunday too, and I think they're going to be gaining a little popularity.
Yeah, 100%, especially Thames at 2.9 right there. There's your first baseman. If you're playing Kluber, you're probably going to play Thames with him on FanDuel, right? Like if you're just naturally looking for a cheap first baseman, he's batting second, lefty-righty splits. You just saw him hit a home run off of DeGrom, right? So it just, it kind of makes sense. But I'm with you guys on the Mets bats, though.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm done. Go ahead.
I think you might be overestimating people.
Yeah, I could be. I have a habit of doing that.
Yeah, I mean, let's just take a look at the stats here. They have a 3.9 implied run total. Out of the 6 teams, that is the 5th worst. If you're a normal player and you're looking at run totals, why would you target them?
Why would you play the Milwaukee bats?
Yeah.
I know. Stack them. We were saying like one-off things.
Yeah, I think
you're saying that the public might be on them. I don't think anybody's going to be on them. I think what I'm thinking here is so they have a 3.9. However, the Dodgers are 4.1 and the Cardinals are 4. So there's 3 teams that are right around 4 runs, with the A's the worst at 3.5. So if you're stacking Cleveland, you're going to probably pick one of these other Cardinals, Dodgers, Brewers. If you're not stacking Cleveland and the Mets, which is going to be chalky. So if you have to pick one, and you're not playing Wheeler, why not Milwaukee? I think they're just as good as any other ones.
This is my point. So the way you just said it exactly. So the 2 chalky offenses are probably going to be the Mets and Cleveland, right? So aside from that, if you got some people who are maybe moderately experienced and they want to go somewhat contrarian, let's say, like if you were going to do that and say I'm just going to fade the 2 highest projected guys, the Mets and Cleveland, then you're pretty much left with the Cardinals and the Dodgers. And I think people
like McCarthy taking all of their money. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I don't recommend doing that for sure. But there are people who are going to do it. There are. And they're going to look. And I think people like McCarthy better than they like Wheeler. So because of that, if they had to pick one of these offenses, I think they would pick like the Brewers over the Cardinals. Now, I don't think people are going to stack the Brewers. I just think a couple of these lefties are going to be like Sogard maybe, Thames, or Shaw. Those are pretty much the 3 guys, like not stacked, but I think as one-offs. I think those will be the 3 popular one-offs that people take because
we might have to have a little wager or something.
Oh, so
I think you're overestimating people.
So you don't think the Brewers will be played at all?
I'm not saying they all, but I think that why are they going to be more popular than Cardinal one-offs, or why are they going to be more popular than Dodger one-offs or things? I mean, I get
Well,
it.
the Dodgers, I see.
It's a short,
I
it's a
get
short
the
stint, so
Dodgers.
no one's going to be low owned. But yeah, I don't know.
I'm just saying, man.
I think you're right, Fuego. Except Thames. I think Thames is going to be popular.
Yeah, Thames. At least Thames.
Yeah,
Thames at 2.9. Sure. He just hit a home run off of DeGrom. He's getting Wheeler, and everybody's going to play Kluber. So if you're playing Kluber, you need a cheap first baseman. You're not going to play Yonder Alonso because he's in the same game. Santana and Encarnacion are way too expensive to fit with Kluber. You're not going to play. Well, maybe Duda. I guess people maybe play Duda instead.
Duda's been hot, hasn't he?
He's been red hot. So Duda in. So I guess the first basemen in this game are just going to be somewhat. And listen, it's a 3-game slate, so like everybody's going to be like kind of chalky, right? Like
exactly.
Like so it's like
well, when we finish up, I'll take a look and I'll give a little. I'll give a prediction at the end on.
Okay, I'm with it. I want to hear it, Fuego. I definitely do.
Sure.
All right, we got Brandon McCarthy of the Los Angeles Dodgers visiting Adam Wainwright of the St. Louis Cardinals. Go ahead, Fuego.
So this is like that middle game. We got the Cleveland and the Mets are the two highest. The Brewers and Oakland are the two lowest totals. And here we're both at 4.1 and 4 as of now. Also, keep an eye on these run totals if they change. That's one way you might be able to take advantage. But I think you're right. People will like McCarthy at pitcher. I like him a little bit, but we've talked about this. But he's had some good games, 46, 40, 43. But it's those innings pitched that they never let him go past 6 innings, in the Dodgers. So that's the problem there. I don't know. I don't even think I'm going to be playing DraftKings, to be honest with you. But on DraftKings, you're just going to have to pick 2 pitchers and just mix them up. I mean, I don't have any. I like McCarthy on DraftKings, but yeah. So yeah, I would play. I would like Kluber and McCarthy. I'll have to see if you get a lineup like that on DraftKings. And then for the Dodger bats, I like a little versus Wainwright, and I also like Wainwright a little as a pitcher, especially on DraftKings. I could see this is where you're going to get some higher ownership, I think, than you are on the Brewers. I think you're going to get some people in the Dodgers. You're going to get people on the Cardinals. They're 2 popular teams just in general. They have bigger names than the other guys. So I'll have to do a little more research to see. But I would probably stack up one of these teams with the Cleveland or one of these teams with the Mets if you're stacking.
That's interesting. Go ahead, D-Tech.
So Wainwright, he pitched a gem in Coors last start, so he may gain some traction. I am not a believer in Wainwright. He gets, I don't know if he's getting lucky on BABIP or what, but I expect him to come back down to earth a little bit, outplay some of the Dodger lefty bats against him, like Bellinger. Utley's been hot, although that's hard to believe and get behind. Seager and maybe even Adrian Gonzalez. And I do like McCarthy. I think I will probably go with McCarthy tomorrow and hope that he gets the innings. The Dodgers did let Ryu did go pretty deep today. Actually, he pitched well, and if you watch that game, it was just so slow and boring. Like it was a 2-1 final. I'm gonna go there for pitching and hope we get kind of like a repeat performance. And I'm not really too interested in many of the Cardinals bats. Obviously, Matt Carpenter, you can always throw start at first hitter, but otherwise, not really too interested in any other Cardinal bats.
Yeah.
I just made a lineup with Kluber, 3 Cleveland bats, 4 Met bats, pretty easily.
Oh yeah. So that's most likely that's going to be the way that everybody tries to go first, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty easy on FanDuel. I didn't have to do it on DraftKings, but
well, you know what? Going back to that game real quick before I talk about this Cardinals game, I think so regardless of whether the Brewers are chalky or not, I do think that. My question is, do you guys think Zach Wheeler will go maybe under owned than he should, considering his potential? That's the question.
I do. I agree. Yeah, I think he's probably the 4th most popular on the slate.
Like maybe people won't play the Brewers, but do you think they'll at least respect the Brewers enough to not go with Wheeler when you have McCarthy, Wainwright, and Kluber on the slate? What do you think? I just want your
Here's what I think. I'll just put this out there right now. On FanDuel, it's 3 games, right?
Yep.
You have Kluber at 10,000. Then you have McCarthy, Wainwright, and Anderson at 8.6, 8.5, and 8.4, all within each other. Kluber's going to be 45%, and each of those is going to be around 15, 20% is what's going to happen. And maybe Wheeler a little bit lower. So that's what it's going to be. Wheeler's going to be in there, and I don't know, Anderson, maybe they put it. All those guys are going to be 10 to 15, and Kluber's going to be 45.
Yeah,
and that's what it's going to be.
Yeah, that's a good call for sure. So I think Brandon McCarthy, he's got a lot of upside. Of course, we never know what to do with the. I don't like the Cardinals bats, and the reason I don't like the Cardinals bats is because you got Brandon McCarthy to get through, and then you have a pretty good Dodger bullpen to get through. So it's like in tournaments, I get it. I certainly get it, and I think the Cardinals bats may go. I think the Dodgers bats may be probably be more popular, I would imagine, than the Cardinals bats. And it makes sense, man. I mean, Wainwright. Who would you rather attack, McCarthy or Wainwright? I'd rather attack Wainwright. He struggles against lefties, and the Dodgers have all their best hitters are left-handed. So I love the Dodger offense here. I do like McCarthy. I'm not crazy about Wainwright because the Dodgers don't strike out against righties all that much to begin with. Like the only time I'm attacking the Dodgers is with a lefty. And yeah, man, it's gonna be hot. It's gonna be 81 degrees. I don't know if that helps anything, but yeah, I think you guys pretty much had it covered.
This is, just a little quick short slate advice. If you're listening, pick the pitcher you think is going to do best and then work yourself down. And then if you look at it and you just think, oh, this is going to be so popular, I can't do it, then start making changes. But it's going to, if you're not going Kluber on this slate, I don't think you have to worry. Any of those other 3-4 pitchers, it will probably be about the same ownership at pretty low.
The ownership ain't gonna on FanDuel anyway. Ownership's not gonna be that big a deal because they're all gonna be kind of spaced out somewhat. I'm
actually, so the debate we had this debate about Westbrook when we did basketball, when we were talking about short slates. If you don't roster Westbrook on a short slate, you can lose. You lose half the time, whatever it might be, because he ends up being the highest scorer. Well, if Kluber gets 60, for example, if he's not on a pitch count and he gets 60 and every other pitcher gets 40, which would be good, obviously. If they only get 30, for example, then you're way behind the 8 ball. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but everyone do your research and figure that part out.
Yeah, I think in cash games you're playing Kluber. I think that you're just not taking the risk. You're just playing.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
All right, so let's talk about this. This game is only on the DraftKings early slate. It's not on the FanDuel, but we'll talk about it real quick. We got Kyle Freeland, the lefty from the Colorado Rockies, visiting Yovani Gallardo of the Seattle Mariners. Go ahead, Fuego.
Yeah, I got thrown because of this. That's right. So here you have DraftKings mode. All right.
DraftKings mode.
You got the Mariners at 4.6 implied run total, which is the third highest out of these 4 games. So that's the third of the top 8. There's another team. And you got your late afternoon hammer, if you want to call it. So you can load up some Seattle bats with Cleveland, as opposed to the Mets. You can pick either of those, load them up with Cleveland. Is probably what I would do on DraftKings if you want the higher team totals. I'm not too Gallardo, me ex-Oriole, I don't like him. Kyle Freeland's probably the worst pitcher on this slate on DraftKings.
All right, what you got, D-Tech?
Yeah, I'm not really too into either of those pitchers. Although Gallardo sometimes can surprise you and not get hit too hard, the Rockies kind of stumble on the road. And as far as the Mariners, I think there's a couple bats in there. So Freeland's a lefty, so you could play some of the Mariner righties. You got Segura, you got Nelson Cruz. Obviously, everyone plays inverse lefties, and Danny Valencia is a lefty masher too. So maybe you give him a shot.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. He burned a lot of people the other day. He did okay tonight, but I think like last night, I think he burned a bunch of people. I didn't play him, but I know a lot of people were upset because he didn't do much, and that was the game Nelson Cruz got hurt. Yeah, I was already on tilt because I had Nelson Cruz. But yeah, apparently people were upset at Valencia a little bit too. But you know what? Neither of these pitchers really strike people out all that much. I will say that typically when I attack Seattle, aside from Nelson Cruz, I used to like to do it with lefties. But like you mentioned, they brought a lot of guys to hit those lefties. They got Mater, they got obviously Cruz, Valencia. So they brought in some guys to help balance that out a little bit. But yeah, I think if on DraftKings, this is a great alternative option to the bats. If you want to get away from the Mets, if you want to get away from the Indians. But lucky for you, you have a game right here. You can just kind of pick players from both sides. I know it's a bad ballpark, but it's two bad pitchers. I know that they've been okay in certain spots. I'm not buying it. I think they're both not very good. Because, listen, if you're not striking anybody out, that means that a lot of these balls are getting put into play. So if you're not striking people out, you have no fantasy value to me. And then on top of that, I'm going to take my chances against you because of the more balls that are put into play, the more chance I have of getting fantasy points, right?
Yep. Yeah, actually, Mike Zunino, too, is a good lefty hitter on Seattle, cheap catcher.
Great call for sure. All right, so that's gonna do it for the early slate. I think we talked a little enough about it. We had a little fun debates there. That was a lot of fun. But I think it's time to move on to the main slate here. You guys ready?
Yeah, sure.
All right. We got, let's see. Okay, we got Eduardo Rodriguez, the lefty from the Boston Red Sox, visiting Fuego's Baltimore Orioles and Wade Miley. Go ahead, Fuego.
Can you guess what I'm going to say?
You're going to
I'm going to say
play Eduardo
Stack the
Rodriguez.
Red Sox?
Yeah, stack the Red Sox. Exactly. I think Miley finally did not have a good game last time out. Am I right?
Yeah, he got hit.
Yes. So finally, he went 5 innings, 8 hits, 4 runs, and only 9 FanDuel points. And then 2 games before that, he didn't do as well. I'm definitely loading up on, as much as I hate to go against my home team, I'm going to load up on Red Sox bats, especially the righties. They have a 4.7 implied total, which looks to be the second highest on the slate.
Yep.
They'll be popular, but it's at Camden Yards, and Mookie Betts. I would play basically all of the Boston guys against even. I mean, they don't really have many lefties, but load up against them. And on the pitching side, I like Eduardo Rodriguez. Every time I've played him, he's done well this year. This is a perfect time to hedge, though. It's a short slate. Play some Eduardo Rodriguez. Play some Oriole bats in other lineups. If you throw $3 if you're in the squeeze, make a lineup with Rodriguez. Make a lineup with Oriole bats. But I do like Rodriguez. The Oriole bats woke up tonight, but I think he controlled them last time at Camden Yards. He had 49 FanDuel points on April 23rd. So.
Yep.
Go ahead, Paulie.
I second most all of that. The Orioles tend to struggle versus lefties, and Eduardo Rodriguez has some pretty nasty stuff. He, I would say, he's definitely got the highest swing and miss rate on this slate, and his peripheral numbers are really, really exciting. So he's a guy I've been using, and he's capable of putting up that real high ceiling game. I will say that Baltimore does seem to be coming alive lately. They got to Tanaka, the Yankees, today. You saw Trumbo get some hits. You saw Chris Davis go yard late in the game. Adam Jones had a monster game. So I don't know if I really am going to go with Rodriguez on this slate, but maybe in a hedge situation, maybe a one-off kind of lineup. And I like Boston bats too, although they've been killing me all year. They have not been hitting for power, and it's gotta come sometime soon. So I agree. The righties, Betts, Hanley. You could even play Chris Young if he makes the lineup, and Morera had a good game 2 nights ago. He'd be cheap if you needed to fit him in. So I like bats in this game. I'd probably stay away from the pitchers.
And before you go, Chris, just to add to that, what you could do, I'm not saying I am starting Rodriguez, but let's say I probably will in one lineup or something, but let's just say you're not doing that. Game stack this game. Take Boston, take Orioles, and throw out maybe Estrada or one of these pitchers coming up, Greinke or something, and game stack it and hope for a big Camden Yards 7-6 game or something.
Yeah,
Yep, absolutely.
I think that makes a lot of sense, guys. I think you guys nailed it. I mean, I think Eduardo, we know he has some upside. We know Baltimore has struggled, especially this year against lefties. But at the same time, we have to respect the fact that the game is in Camden Yards, and the Orioles had a pretty good showing today, and they have a 4.4 projected run total, so we have to respect that as well. So yeah, it's a perfect head situation, perfect game stack attempt. You know, if you're playing tournaments, if you have a couple lineups and you want to try it, yeah, try one with Eduardo, and then try one with maybe a little game stack here and go with a different pitcher. But yeah, I think you guys nailed it, man. Let's see. We got CC Sabathia, the lefty from the New York Yankees, visiting Marco Estrada of the Toronto Blue Jays. This should be interesting. Go ahead, Fuego.
You know, I don't. How many? Do you know how many runs Toronto scored today?
I want to say sure. 5 or 6 or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think they won 5-3.
Yeah,
okay,
five to 4. Yeah, they scored 5 runs.
They're on fire. And Donaldson didn't play today, and Tulowitzki didn't play today, which means they're probably playing tomorrow.
Right. Against CC.
Against CC. They probably won't be contrarian, but you know, I'm going to play them for sure. They have, excuse me, they have a 4.9 implied run total right now, which is the highest on the slate. And, you know, like same as talking early slate, if you think they're going to be the high scorers, stack them up with another team. The one thing I want to add, which I talked about this morning on Scout Fantasy on Sirius XM, name drop. You know, as opposed to some like football and basketball, I don't think you have to be as contrarian in baseball. You can only stack 4. And one reason in the early days of DFS, you could stack everyone on the team. And they got rid of that because so with only 4, you can mix up your stacks and not necessarily take 1, 2, 3, 4, or 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's how you can get different, skip some guys, do some things like that. And you still get that total of those runs there. And, you know, so I don't think you have to be super, super contrarian. And if they're going to be the highest score, you may want to, you're going to have some shares. So if you think the Blue Jays are going to score the most runs, definitely take some. And Yankees will probably be a little popular, except Stroman. I love.
You mean Estrada?
It's Estrada.
Estrada. I do that every time, don't I?
All Blue Jays look alike.
That's right. Yeah, you know, I like Estrada. He's 9.2 on FanDuel. We have 3. You know, Rodriguez is only 9,000. So he's 200 more than Rodriguez. So he's going to probably be, I'm guessing, the second highest pitcher behind Greinke, most popular. But I do like him a lot going against the Yankees.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Paulie.
Yeah, I agree. This is a big Eastern Division rivalry game. Toronto's obviously a different team than they've been, and the Yankees have like a 5-game lead on them. So Toronto's going to be looking to gain some ground in this series and make a statement. Kills me to see CC Sabathia starting because he's just not very good anymore, and Toronto's got a bunch of righties that can light him up. Literally anyone in that lineup, 1 through 8, Pilar, Martin, the catcher's heating up. Travis, the second baseman's been hitting the ball. Smoke, Donaldson, Joey Bat. It's gonna be a long day for CC Sabathia. On the other side, Estrada tends to just dominate the Yankees. I can't confirm 100%, but I guarantee if you go look at his career, he's had a lot of good games against the Yankees. The fly ball pitcher that does have strikeout upside. The Yankees have been striking out a lot more this year than last year. So Estrada could be interesting, although I want to believe that Yankees will come to play and their bats could do some damage here. So I probably wouldn't throw either pitcher, and I like bats on both sides. On the Yankees end, Sanchez, if he plays, for sure. Hicks, I like if he plays as well. Holiday's been hitting the ball. Didi Gregorius. I don't think you really need to. You can play either side of the plate against Estrada. So, you know, pick a couple guys that you think have a good shot and go with it. This is probably a good game stack right here.
Yeah, I think that this game is very similar to the game before it. I mean, from head to toe, Wade Miley is comparable to CC somewhat. Marco Estrada is comparable to Eduardo. Even the run totals are very similar. So personally, I think I like Estrada a little bit better than Eduardo. Now that could come back to bite me in the rear because I think Estrada will be slightly more popular than Eduardo, just because I think that. Well, you know what? Maybe not, because. Maybe let me ask Fuego. Fuego, who do you think will be more popular, the Yankees or I'm sorry, the I'm sorry, what am I asking now? Oh, the Estrada or
Estrada.
Eduardo?
Marco Estrada, I'm guessing is going.
It's tough because people like the Yankees, they do, and there's a good reason. They've been red hot.
Yeah, and there's also the perception of Baltimore big bats in Camden. So let's put it this way: we haven't talked about him yet. We're going to talk about Greinke in a minute.
Right.
If you're not going Greinke, then you're going to have to pick one of these two, because you're not going Sabathia, you're not going Miley, you're not going on these other scrubs. So it's going to be one of the two. I'm going to say it's going to be Estrada. He's got a lot of stuff going for him as he's at home, he's the favorite, I think. I think the temperature's low, things like that. So I think it's going to be Estrada is going to be maybe a little bit more popular.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I do. I think that makes sense. Now, with that said, I do actually like Estrada a lot tomorrow in tournaments. Again, we're going to talk about Greinke in a sec, but I do like Estrada. Over the last 2 years, his home WOBA is about 274. 264 to lefties and 288 to righties. So he hasn't, he gets by, he gets the job done. He does have a little K upside, more at home than he does on the road. And you know what? You mentioned it, Paul. I know you're a Yankee fan, but you mentioned it. Over the last year or two, the Yankees were never really known as a high strikeout team. This year they are. They're striking out a lot. Gary Sanchez, as good as he is, he strikes out a ton. So it's either home run or strike out with that guy. So I do think there is certainly upside. Now listen, we're talking tournaments only here. You don't like to attack a team that has a 4.2 or a 4.4 projected run total. But in tournaments, Eduardo or Estrada, they're going to be your pivots off of Greinke for sure. So it's going to be interesting. And obviously, you guys nailed it with the Blue Jays bats, man. They're red hot. They're healthy. I wouldn't back off. And you know what, Fuego, you made a great point. I think, Fuego, basically, to add to what you were saying is, it sounded like you were saying that just because a team might be the chalk stack or the chalky team doesn't mean you still can't find ways to play them in a contrarian way to make your lineup contrarian, right? Like you're saying, just because a team may be chalk, don't skip the whole team. Just maybe pick different players, or maybe skip one or two players that are gonna be chalk, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And even right. So I've gotten burned by skipping the number 4 batter before, but so I don't recommend doing that sometimes, but it can work. If you like Chris Davis, a perfect example of the Orioles, I will skip him sometimes when he's got a bad matchup, and I'll go around him. I'll go Trumbo Machado. So you don't have to go 1, 2, 3, 4. You know what I like to do? I like to do 4, 5, 6, 7, or 3, 4, 5. Like 3 through 7, things like that, just to be different, and you still get. They're still part of those 5 runs that are scored, and you just hope it's them as opposed to the leadoff hitter, for example.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we got Zach Greinke of the Arizona Diamondbacks visiting Jeff Locke. I didn't realize he was still playing baseball, of the Miami Marlins. Go ahead, Fuego.
Yeah, he's 4.7 on DraftKings, and I'm not even sure how you play him. I mean, you might have to on DraftKings. There's what we got. Well, no, because we don't have any pitchers. I mean, there's only like this. I really don't think I'm playing DraftKings, even though it's probably a good day for my short slate stuff to take.
Hey, short slate specialist, brother.
Yeah, I'm not going Locke. I would probably stack up against him, especially the righties. What's Arizona 4.2? I'm actually surprised it's that low.
Yeah.
They've been struggling.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, they have. But did you guys see the end of the game today? It was like a monsoon in Pittsburgh.
Oh, yeah.
And they were trying to get the game in to finish, and the freaking guy hits a home run to tie it. Oh, God.
Was it Mercer?
So, yeah.
So Mercer.
Yeah, exactly. But he was shaking his head going around third base like, I can't believe I just did that. I swear that's what he was thinking, man. But so I'll like Arizona. I'll probably play some of them versus him. And Greinke, on FanDuel, he's going to be super popular. He'll be popular on both sites, but Greinke is going to be, the mega chalk on FanDuel.
Yep.
And for, as he should be, the way he's been pitching this year. I mean, he had a bad outing last time out against the Brewers, but before that, 69, 38, 64, 46. So, you have to like him on this slate.
Yeah. Go ahead, Paulie.
Yeah, in cash, Greinke's definitely your guy. On FanDuel and tournaments, I would probably go a different direction just because I think he'll be 40% owned, and that's the way I approach slates. And like I said, he had not his best start last game. The Marlins don't strike out that much, and they've been hot, so maybe they could get to him a little bit. Not 100% confident in that, but it's enough to get me off Greinke. On the other side, Locke, I didn't know he was playing either. I remember him being not that great, and so I would definitely play some Arizona bats. Lamb, Yasmani Tomas, Owings, Goldschmidt, any of those guys are fine. And if you're going to play some Marlins, Stanton, Boer, Ozuna, those guys are hot right now, and even D. Gordon maybe can get on and steal some bases.
Yeah, this is an odd situation. This is another one of those situations where I think back, I have a question for you, Paulie. You're down in Florida. I noticed that a lot of these games, it's in the mid 80s. I know it's kind of hot and humid, but they keep closing the roof. Do you think is there a strategy behind that? Because if they open up this roof, I think these balls would fly out of there with the heat and the humidity and all that.
Oh, they do whenever they open the roof. It's just, number one, it takes 45 minutes for that to happen. So, if there was a massive rainstorm that happened, they would have to, it would take a while to get it corrected. So that's something they do only when they have a super clear forecast. And number two, in Florida, it rains out of nowhere all the time for 5 minutes and then it's gone. But, even on a perfectly clear day, all of a sudden, boom, the little storm comes in. So that's why they don't open it, because the weather's very unpredictable down here, and it takes a while to open that roof.
I gotcha. So I'll say this. I think Paul, you hit it on the head. In cash games, Greinke's probably your guy. I wouldn't hate you if you wanted to go with Estrada Eduardo if you made a strong case, if you did further research and found something. But as of right now, to the naked eye, I think Greinke's the guy. But hey, it's one of those situations, man. Greinke against Locke, and it's only 117. I know he's on the road, but something just don't seem right with that. You mean to tell me it doesn't mean that my Marlins are necessarily going to blow up Greinke? It could just mean that the Diamondbacks are going to be shut down by Locke. So you got to. It depends on how you interpret it. But either way, something seems shady about that line. I mean, Zach Greinke.
What is it? What is the line again?
Greinke's favored 117. That's it against Locke. I know he's on the road, but it's the fishy. Marlins and it's Locke. Something don't smell right there. That's all I'm going to say. Other than that, you guys nailed the game. We got one more game to get through, fellas. We got oh man, we'll just call him Mr. Mejia.
Adalberto.
Is it? It says Adalberto. Adalberto. How about that?
There you go.
There you go.
Mejia of the lefty from the Minnesota Twins visiting Alex Meyer of Matt Amon's Los Angeles Angels. Wait, go pick it up, brother.
Of Anaheim.
There it is. Okay. All right.
I forgot for a second. Is he even in the player pool?
Meyer?
Locke? I'm not sure. Oh no, Mejia, yeah. Both these pitchers are in the player pool.
Oh yeah.
He's the only guy cheaper than Locke. Mejia.
On FanDuel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
61 it looks like he is.
Yeah. Well, who's the pitching for Minnesota?
Alex Meyer.
He's not in the player pool, is he?
Alex Meyer's pitching for the Angels. He's in the player pool. He's just above Locke, and Mejia's pitching for Minnesota. He's the cheapest.
Oh, you know what it is? If you're looking at your model, it's probably because they just recently announced him to starter. So at the time when the salaries were uploaded, they Labs or whatever using, they probably didn't have Meyer in there. That's all.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
Because he's not on my model either.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, where is he? I'm probably the LA Bats. They have a 4.4 implied run total, which is actually tied for the third highest. We have the Blue Jays at 4.9, the Red Sox at 4.7, and then the Angels at 4.4. Same as the Orioles. You may have to play some of these guys on this slate. But It's the late night game. Pujols did not hit his homer yet, his 600 tonight, so I'm probably going to roll him out, especially versus a lefty in a couple lineups. And I don't think I'm not super excited about either pitcher. Maybe some of the other righties on LA catching Maldonado, and I would even play Calhoun, even though he's a lefty. He's got decent splits versus lefties.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Paulie.
Actually, you're not gonna believe it, but this is the game I'm gonna go for pitching. One of these two cheaper arms. They actually both have K upside. I got to dig into it a little more to see which one I'm gonna side with. But it's in a big park. The Angels without Trout don't really scare me. They have some more Ks in that lineup. And this guy Meyer, I've gone with him a couple times this year, and he's paid off. He's gotten like 7 strikeouts in 2 or 3 straight games. And I just expect this to be a lower scoring game. And, you know, if you want all those expensive bats, you're going to need a cheap arm. So I'm going to go with one of these two guys, hope that they can get me to 35 or 40 and have the expensive bats in Toronto, Boston, and New York.
Ah, interesting, man. Bringing the hot take on his first show. I'm loving it. I'm loving it, man.
That's the end. Some cojones.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. I personally think that listen, Alex Meyer, I'm not targeting that dude. He's shown me enough that like I'm not gonna go against that guy. And I will say though, as far as Mejia, I think Pujols gets his homer against Mejia. I think this is where it happens. I don't think Mejia is very good. I really don't.
You want to call it now for the Dong Watch?
Yeah, right.
We'll give it to you. We'll give it to you.
All right, fine. So we'll just say that I went first, and that my first pick was Pujols there.
You don't like going first though, but okay.
Well, you know, it's okay when I have a guy in mind already.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, it's cool. But that's pretty much all I got to say on the game. I think you guys nailed it. You guys did a great job. Now it's time to actually play some Dong Watch here. So. So we're gonna do this. So normally we would have given Paulie the first pick, but since Fuego was so kind in giving me Pujols as the first pick, I'll take that as the first pick, and then Paulie, you're gonna go second, okay?
All right, no problem.
Go for it.
Is it both slates?
Yes. All day.
All day. All right, I'm gonna go with Bellinger on the Dodgers.
I like that call a lot. All right, Fuego, you get 2 here.
All right. Let's go Mookie Betts. And I could take the easy way out. Nelson Cruz.
Nelson Cruz, good call.
All right, back to you.
I'll take Lucas Duda.
Ooh, going Duda on him. Okay. He's throwing some Mets out there. Okay. Let me get some Tulo. I'm gonna go some Tulowitzki. And then I think I get one more. And I think for this one, oh man, it's this. Looking at it from an all-day perspective is super tough. But I think I'm gonna stick with the Blue Jays. I'm gonna stick here against CC. I'm gonna go with Donaldson as my last. And then, all right, last pick for you, Paulie.
Conforto.
Oh, man. You're taking all my Mets against me, man.
They're going to take Chase Anderson deep, man.
I'm with you, man. I'm definitely with you, especially on the road. All right, go ahead, Fuego, your last pick.
I'm sticking with the Blue Jays and taking Justin Smoke.
Oh, okay, I like it.
He's been hot.
The Blue Jays in general, man, they've been ripping it. Hey, Fuego.
These are two tough short slates. Let me say that.
They are.
Before we leave, I do get up early, do some research, do your research during the day for the late slate. And if you don't feel comfortable playing, I know people who don't like short slates. I personally like short slates, small slates. A lot of people don't. If you don't feel comfortable, take the day off, and attack it on Friday. But hit me up on Twitter if you got any questions. I'll be glad to answer.
Yep.
Hey, you got anything to say, Paulie?
No, just on slates like this, play less of your bankroll. Unless you got a super hot take that you want to go all in on. Otherwise, play a little less. You'll be alive to play the next day.
I'm digging it. Hey, Fuego, man, I appreciate you coming on. It was nice having you join us with Paulie, who recently qualified again for the MLB Live Final in Chicago this year. Once again, Paulie, congrats on the qualification. Welcome to Team WiseTake, man. It was nice to have you on. I really wanted to get Fuego on here with you on the short slate because, one, Fuego likes the short slates, and two, I figured your first show, since qualifying, it'd be nice to have another guy who also qualified so we can have a little for our listeners, of course. I'm always thinking about the listeners, right? I'm just a generous guy for our listeners.
That's right.
when we get closer to the finals, maybe we'll do a show. We'll give some advice.
A little finals preview show. Absolutely, that'd be great. But anyway, gentlemen, listen, guys. For you listeners, you're going to be seeing a lot of these too. Obviously, you're familiar with Fuego already. You're going to see a lot of Paulie, aka DTECHNATION. So look out for him on them leaderboards. Hit him up on Twitter at Paulie. That's 4D. So that's DD. That's 4 Ds. Anyway, guys, if you're watching on YouTube, please hit that thumbs up, that like button. Subscribe to the channel. It means a lot to us. We're trying to grow. If you're listening on Podbean, give us a follow. If you're listening on iTunes, subscribe to the channel. Leave us some positive reviews. Bump us up those charts. Again, Fuego, I couldn't think, Fuego and Paulie, I can't thank you guys enough, man. This was a blast. This was a great show. It was just 2 short slates. I was a little skeptical about this podcast, and I thought it came out great, man. A lot of great stuff, a lot of great conversation, man. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys. So for Paulie, for Fuego, and for myself, as always, good luck.
Take it easy.